for example, like I guess like you heard the fact that Finland is like the happiest country on earth. That's been on the news.
When I heard that, then I was like, I don't know who was doing this, because we don't really seem particularly very happy people.
Yeah.
When it comes to like you go outside, you don't even say hi to your neighbors. You just try to walk past. But anyway,
yeah. That's the thing that kind of like that the Finnish self-image is kind of that we are this melancholic kind of people who just listen to like sad, like heavy metal or like some sad tangos and music like that. So the way the Finnish people view themselves is not that we are very happy people.
Today's guest is globally known author, researcher Frank Martela. Frank has been studying and researching about the very fundamental questions that we have as a human being. Without any further ado, let's get into the podcast. I promise you, this is interesting.
First of all, I gotta say that I'm super excited having you, Frank, over here. For our listeners who don't know Frank is basically a researcher, philosopher, and also an author to many books. But this one is your latest one, right?
Yeah, that's the latest one.
And a little bit about the backstory, how we met. We basically met in a conference in Citra's conference. Do you remember the exact wording or the wording? How would you describe that event that we were part of?
It's been a while. I don't remember exactly anymore. But it was like about the future of Finland or something like that. But
yeah, the future was the topic.
Yeah.
Or they basically in Sitra. First of all, what is Sitra for our listeners, those who don't really understand? Do you know?
I guess that, it's about like the think tank about future, which is like funded by the Finnish government in a way. I guess like something like that.
Yeah. So basically they think about different scenarios and trends that are going to happen in the future, or they study these trends and try to find sustainable solution.
Yeah, I guess like, yeah.
Or directives.
Yeah, that's what I guess like sustainability is one of their topics, but like anything that is like relevant for the Finnish future or the future of the world, I guess like they're kind of like following the mega trends around the world and trying to figure out what they mean for Finland and what Finland should do to be on the kind of like on top of these things. And sustainability is of course one of the big trends right now.
Yeah. And I have my own story how I got into that group or became one of the speakers, I would say. I had like a short presentation, and I was talking about the challenges of the future and how a lot about meaningful, the topic that we're talking today, that we are more connected through internet on all these devices, yet we feel more alone. And being alone makes us sad, being alone makes us weak. And we need each other. That was basically my topic. What did you think about that?
I quite much agree that I guess like at the root of human beings are like we are social animals. We need other people, that we come into existence through other people, and who we become is quite much dependent on what people are around us when we grow up and so forth. So in that sense, I think that too strong individualistic thinking might be like harmful for human beings. If I think that I can do it on my own, if I think that I should only think about myself, these are ways of thinking that might be harmful for most of us, like on an individual level and also on a social level, societal level. So in that sense, I can kind of like agree that the modern lifestyle sometimes doesn't have like too good consequences as regards how we connect with each other.
So you do all this amazing research about life and happiness. Now I'm going to ask a very personal question. Are you happy, or have you found happiness in your life?
I would say that I'm quite happy as regards myself. And also like quite often people ask me like what are my key sources of happiness or meaning. And of course, like my answer is quite like boring in a way, because like if I think about what makes my life meaningful or what makes myself happy, one thing is the family. I have like 3 small kids, like 8, 6, and 3 years old, So like the family is very important thing for me and very like meaningful thing for me. And then the other thing is that I love my work, that I think I really found the kind of work that I like most enjoy doing. So when people ask me what's my source of happiness and meaning, then my answer is that it's family and work, which is basically the most common answer in the modern world anyways for these topics.
I don't know about other people, but personally myself, maybe it's the age, maybe because I don't have kids yet, but I kind of want to, like, I personally, I think I'm in a journey to find myself and discovering myself, and each year I find new things. But exactly what you said, in a way, doing this podcast, if I could do this for a living, then I would be the most happiest person ever. Getting to sit down with amazing people and learn about life, learn about different philosophies and different things that you never really sit down and think. So what is happiness?
In a way, I think that there's like not one thing that is happiness. That it seems that when we talk about happiness, we might be talking about like several different things, and that's kind of the confusion that some people, when they talk about happiness, they talk about some more like general lives, like general way of being satisfied with your life. Some other people just talk about having positive emotions right now, and third group of people talk about something else, and then they like talk besides each other. But for example, like I guess like you heard the fact that Finland is like the happiest country on earth. That's been on the news.
When I heard that, then I was like, I don't know who was doing this, because we don't really seem particularly very happy people.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, you go outside, you don't even say hi to your neighbors. You just try to walk past. But anyway,
yeah. That's the thing that kind of like that the Finnish self-image is kind of that we are this melancholic kind of people who just listen to like sad, like heavy metal or like some sad tangos and music like that. So the way the Finnish people view themselves is not that we are very happy people.
Why is that? We downplay ourselves quite a lot, because if you think about Finnish inventions and how much top athletes and amazing people comes from these 5 million people.
I don't know. It could have something to do with like the harsh winter times, like in the past. That if you were like if you were too optimistic person in the like 100 years from now, like when it was very like when the conditions were much harsher in a way. If you were the optimistic person who didn't think about the future when it was summer, you were like, no worries, we're gonna survive. Then you didn't survive. So the pessimistic people survived perhaps the long winters. They were the ones who were gathering enough food.
So it's like a self-protection mechanism.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be something like that.
Survival mode on.
Yeah. But as regards like why Finland is right now like so happy country, it's like the question that is like asking these kind of studies. It's actually not a question like are you happy, but it's more a question that think about your life on a scale from like 0 to 10, where 10 is the best possible life and 0 is the worst possible life. Where would you put yourself on that kind of scale? So that's a question that is asked in this World Happiness Report. So they asked that question from like 1,000 people in different, like 1,000 people in Finland, 1,000 people in Sweden, 1,000 people in 140 countries around the world, or even more. And then they like count the averages for every country, and that's kind of like, because it's not a question like have you been like smiling today, or have you been like having a joyful time today. It's more a question about like when you think about your life, are you like satisfied with your life conditions? And I think that kind of question is something that in the end most Finnish people think that okay, yeah, life is not perfect, but still like that I'm not suffering like that. In many other countries people might be like suffering more because like we have like the welfare like security system and stuff like that is like relatively good in Finland. So So I wouldn't say that there's not more people in Finland who would like when the scale is from 0 to 10. There's not more people in Finland who are like giving 10 in that kind of like survey. But I think the fact that the reason why Finland and other Nordic countries are so high in these averages is because like there's less people who give like 1, 2, or 3 in these kind of surveys, because there's like less people who are like very worse off in life because of this like the kind of like the how the society is like organized.
Yeah, the quality of life, especially in the Nordic countries, it's different. It's a different class. It's almost like Volvo is different class. It's a different type of car made for the Nordics, atmosphere, or at least that's what many people say.
Yeah. I guess like these are kind of like these high trust societies where people trust the government and people are kind of like willing to pay taxes. I guess like that's. I was like listening to one presentation by this Jeffrey Sachs, who's like this U.S. like economist, and he said that that the Nordic countries are basically the only countries where like politician can go to the election and say that I'm going to raise taxes and still win. That in any other country, if you go to the election and your campaign is about let's get more taxes, you will gonna lose the election because like nobody is gonna vote for that. But in the Nordic countries, you can say that and still like get elected because like people are so like kind of like so much trusting that to raise it, that the taxes that are collected they are used for something good. That in some other countries, this one like social scientist, this Swedish social scientist Bo Rothstein, he's like been doing quite much research on this like high trust and low trust societies, and he was like contrasting like Sweden and Russia. He had like quite much experience with Russia as well, and he said that in Russia. People, when they think about taxes, they said, okay, I know that my neighbor is not paying taxes, and if I'm paying taxes, I know that some corrupt politician is going to take like half of what I'm paying. So why should I pay taxes?
They don't see any meaning in the paying of.
Yeah, they see that that why should I pay when nobody else pays? And if I pay, that somebody's going to put the money in anyway to their own pocket.
Be like I'm not going to see the effect of the taxes in anywhere.
So he's kind of like using like Russia as an example of low trust society where people don't trust the government too much. And then the Nordic countries are the ones where like people trust the government, so they're like happy to pay taxes because they think that the money is put to some good uses, that the money is used for like building some new swimming pools or whatever, like or public services like hospitals or whatever. So that people trust that the money is put to some good use.
And also, I would say it has something to do with education as well. People somehow in the Nordic society we work better in synchronism. We see that if I'm paying taxes and they're going to the students, one day my kid is going to be a student and then he's going to be taken care of. He doesn't have to have like a massive loan, which is a pretty much problem everywhere in the world except the Nordic countries and some European countries.
Yeah. So, and actually to say to Bo Rothstein, who I already mentioned, he also had like one study where he was looking like the education levels at, I don't know, some year in the like 19th century, like 1800, 90 or something like that. He was examining like how many years people on average had like education during that during that period in various countries around the world, and then he was like kind of like using that to predict how much people trust the government like in today, and he found out that was like quite like good predictor of like trusting government. Like the 19th century level of education predicted 21st century level of trusting government. So his argument was that that building these high trust societies, it's not like something that you can do just like that, but it takes time, and education is one of the key means to that. That when you have like highly educated population, they're gonna vote for people who are like more trustworthy. They're not gonna be voting so much for the populist parties, but they're gonna be like making more like reasonable choices about who they elect, and through that then also the government is going to be like more trustworthy.
Just had a thought in my head, but it slipped. But yeah, and also investing money on education, you might like, when I think about countries like Bangladesh, and I know some basic history of Bangladesh and so on and so forth, but there was a government that was putting a lot of money into education instead of the roads and infrastructures, things that you can see and feel. Education is something I can't touch your education. Right? So when they were, because in Bangladesh and probably in any other countries as well, like the opposition of the government will always like criticize the government, right? And their critique was like, where's the road? We need bridges, you guys ain't doing your job. You see all these people, they have to work so hard because we don't have bridge in such and such place and whatnot. But, it's quite sad that, people, we want the quick taste. We want the fast calories, so to speak. We don't think about the long game. Yeah, of course, like education is something that it doesn't pay off today. That if you invest money in education today, next year you don't see any result. It's that if the politicians are elected for like 4 years or 6 years or how many years they're elected, it's not going to be like, the results are not going to be visible when they're like still there in the parliament. But it's going to be like the next generation is going to be seeing the result that, that if you start to invest in education now, 30 years from now, you will see the results. And of course, like that requires some like long-term thinking from the politicians, but also from the public themselves, that the public understands that, okay, investment in education is good investment, even though we don't see the roads or like anything visible right now. Yeah, but that's an idea that you need to explain. It's not something plain and simple. Like, here is this glass, you can see this right here. And I think that's the challenge of many countries. Plus, like you said, the leadership as well has to play a role. If a child has an abusive father, he will not trust the father. He will have very uncomfortable and unsure relationship with the father, will be very skeptical, just in general. I'm not saying specific case, but the same thing happens to the citizens as well when they see that the leadership is like, you can affect the leadership. And you can affect how the money is being spent. But how did you even start looking for or researching happiness? How does that happen? Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't like happen like overnight, but I guess like I always been like interested in kind of like the fundamental questions in a way that so the philosophy was already in high school. It was like one of my favorite subjects. So I took like all the mine as well.
Okay, yeah. So I took like all the possible courses that my high school had on philosophy. I think there was like 5 different courses. So I took them all, and so kind of like trying to understand the kind of like So if I go even more back, like when I was like when I was like a small child, like 6 years or 7 years, when people were asking, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Then my answer was always that I want to be a researcher of the world. Wow. So that was kind of like my answer when I was like 6 or 7. But I guess when I was in the high school, I realized that actually I'm not so interested in the world as such, but I'm interested in kind of like the human world. I mean, it's like the human condition and interaction. Yeah. What does the world from the human point of view look like? And so, and then like when I started thinking, okay, what would be like a good life? What's good life about? Then like happiness is of course like one of the topics that comes to your mind. That okay, what makes life good, or how should we live our lives? These are kind of the most fundamental questions of philosophy in a way. And I felt that that trying to answer those questions, one has to like know something about happiness, something about meaning, because these seem to be some kind of intermingling in some kind of like basic ways. Somehow like, and also like some of the kind of like the intrinsic values that we are seeking in our lives. That if you think of what at the bottom line we are like seeking in life, one thing seems to be like happiness, one thing might be meaningfulness. The question is, what are you doing, or no, more like what should you be doing right now? Why were you created? These kind of questions come in a weird way when you start to think like, what is the happiness, where you want to go, and what should you do where you want to go. But I think overall, where do you want to go? When you ask someone, if you ask myself, where do you want to go? I don't really have an answer. Yeah, and also like how do you make that answer? Like how do you make that choice? How do you create that? What are the criteria you use to make that choice? That's over like quite like philosophical question, and that's kind of like what I find try to I've been trying to like investigate what are the best criteria to use when I'm making some life choices.
What are these criteria? Can you like map out the biggest ones that most people find meaning? Because I think different people have different ways of, but there must be some kind of a common factor amongst people.
Yeah, because like sometimes they have been discussed that there's like some like instrumental values that I use something with something else, that I might want to have like more money because with the money I can buy something, but like money as such is not the value, like intrinsic value, because there's nothing in money itself that is valuable. It's just like valuable because you can use the money to buy something that is like more valuable as such. So that
it's like it's the time you have, what you can spend in other things as well. Right?
Yeah. So then, like, what are the like things which are like not like just instrumentally valuable, but just valuable as such? And when I've been like reading some philosophers, like they argue that happiness, like your personal well-being, seems to be something that that you don't have to like. If you say that if I ask me why did you do that thing, and you say that because it made me happy, I don't have to like ask any other question. That's like enough of an explanation. Okay.
But it's very vague at the same time.
Yeah. But it's not like all that you're seeking in life. But one thing that everybody is seeking in life might be like positive feelings and happiness.
Joy.
Yeah. So like enjoyable moments, they're like valuable as such. That it's like there's something like that. If I think about, for example, sports, for me, it's something that I enjoy playing floorball or playing football or sports like that. And I don't think that I'm not like contributing to anything big through playing football with my friends or anything like that, but it's an enjoyable moment as such. So like happiness might be like one of the things that we are seeking in life, not because of something else, but because of the happiness itself.
Happy moments.
Yeah. So that's one thing, but then other thing that then of course like morality seems to be also like an independent value in our life, that we make also choices because like that's the morally right choice. That I might be more happy if I do this, but then I think about that's morally wrong, and because of that I refuse to do that because I want to view my life as like morally right. So that morality and like happiness is one thing that we are like using to evaluate our lives, but morality is another thing that
a meter that you measure.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of the meters that you use to measure
the goodness of life.
Yeah,
how good you live.
Yeah. How good your life is. That that if you would be given a choice between two lives, okay, in this life you will be like perfectly happy, but you will do like very evil things, and in this life you will be less happy, but that you will always do the morally right thing. Then like still most people would probably choose the life where they don't want to live like an evil life just because it gives them happiness. So like these are kind of like independent things that you use to evaluate how good your life.
A lot
might
of
be.
the religion and religious people probably falls into that category. Would you say?
Yeah, but I think like also like even people who don't like subscribe to any religion, they
have like a moral compass.
They still like would have like moral compass, and like still that most of them would still think that like morality is an important value that you should think about in life.
Is there any other categories?
Yeah, that's like then of course like meaningfulness might be like a third category, but like meaningfulness itself is also like something that it's a bit hard to like define what exactly it is. That it seems to be something like which is not meaningfulness, not the same thing as happiness, not the same thing as morality, but what exactly it is. And I've been thinking that one way to like try to like figure it out would be say that that there's one part of it might be this sense of contribution, being able to like contribute towards other people, that feeling that that my life matters
because I do something that matters.
So like through my activities I'm able to like advance some good things. I think that that's also like something that we might like think about as an like independent source of goodness of life, in a way that that if I feel that I'm able to use my life for some good causes, sometimes I'm willing to make even big sacrifices for that, like in terms of my happiness and like that, to feel that I'm able to contribute.
I was thinking that about the meaningful, and you were saying that meaningful is one of the categories. When I started to think about my life and what I find meaning in, and then when I look deeper, I find meaning making these podcasts and having awesome guests like yourself here, and learn from you guys. But one of the things that within this whole meaningfulness and doing something comes the flow. It's hard. I'm doing something which is hard. I fail sometimes, but I barely make it. I'm like in this, I'm not sinking. I'm like just, just having enough difficulties, but yet still staying optimistic, and overcoming these difficulties gives me a joy.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And that's also like, actually like one of the like, when I think about what makes like life good or what makes life meaningful, then like I think that also this like this sense of competence or sense of like excellence and growth, this seems to be like one topic that like most people seem to be finding quite much motivation and meaning from. So I like when I, for example, when I give like lectures in some like companies or like some organizations, one of the questions I usually ask in the beginning of the lecture is that hey, think about like for a few minutes like what motivates you at your work, and then I ask like people around like to say what are the things that motivate them, and that's one of the things that always comes up is that challenges. The challenges is actually something that most people find motivating in their work. That if the work is too easy, it becomes like boring. So they want to like be be challenged by their work.
And you feel important as well. You're doing something that most people can't do.
Yeah, and you feel that you're like growing through that. Your skills are like improving because you're like putting yourself out there and trying to do these things which are like slightly too hard right now. But then you feel that next month you already can manage that thing and master that thing. So I think that that's also like something that being able to use your potential, being able to use your skills, that seems to be also kind of like one of the kind of like things which is like independently valuable. Like usually it also brings you like happiness. Usually it's also enjoyable. But sometimes I think we might be even like willing to make like if there's a choice between happiness and being able to use your skills and like learn and grow, people might be like willing to choose to like learning and growth even if it makes them unhappy.
You can basically say whether I'm wrong or right, but it's almost like having a tool. We human beings, if we visualize ourselves as a tool, as a knife, and this knife, I don't take care of it and I don't use it. I don't use the knife. I don't sharpen the knife. I don't take care of the knife. Then the knife is going to get rusty, right? Getting rusty as a human being, not doing enough challenging things or not growing or learning every day, that makes us rusty and kind of isolated, or you understand what I'm saying? So it could be this kind. Do you think this example is okay, or what do you think about it?
And that reminds me, like there's like one friend of mine. He's like working in one company, and in that company that the owner of the company, it's like a relatively small. It's like a company with like I think like 20 people or something like that. So the owner of the company, he was like getting like a bit older, and then he was like kind of like thinking that the company is like
growing.
The company was like not growing. It was like it's quite like a niche market. Like it's like this quite a specific market. So they were like kind of like the leading producer of that thing in Finland. So they were 20 people. So they were not growing, but they were not like shrinking either. So and he was like being the owner of the company, he was like making quite good money, so like everything was good in that sense. But he was kind of like thinking that okay, I'm gonna like retire quite early. I'm gonna retire when I'm still in my 50s because I've done my part and so forth. But then he got like more like then he was like having like some conversation with this one like coach who was like then like inspiring him like you should like still like seek some growth from somewhere, and instead of like then right he got like this new sparkle to his work, and he was like okay, let's expand to Sweden, let's start like take the Nordic markets, like not only Finland, but let's start to take the Nordic markets over. And I think like now he's like almost like I think he's already in his 70s, and he's still like he's still like leading the company. So he was thinking of like retiring in his 50s because there was no new growth. He was like making a good living and everything, but there was like not the growth.
It reached the limits in Finnish market.
Yeah, so he had like reached a limit, and it was like company was doing fine, but there was like not this like sense of growth anymore. But then when he he refound this like sense of growth and like this sense of like challenging himself and so forth, then he refound the meaning in the work, and because of that he's like being working in that company like well beyond like retirement age.
This is one of those questions that I was thinking, with my friend, that what are the questions? Now we have the chance to ask from the real philosophers, not like street philosophers like myself, but the real deal. And we were thinking that meaning or happiness, or whatever we want to call whatever we want to describe as the goal, the purpose of living. Purpose of living is it kind of incorporates a lot of these, like joy, happiness, and doing things right? So does it change with society and with time? Have you done what kind of research have you learned from this, and your take on that?
Yeah, I guess the way we approach the whole question might change through time. So I also, for example, of course, because my background is in Western philosophy, I've been reading these ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle and these things, these guys. And for Aristotle, he has this book like Nicomachean Ethics, which is one of the classics of the Western philosophy. And in that book, he's kind of trying to figure out what is the kind of the goal of human beings. That's one of the key questions of the book. That what is the goal of human beings? But I feel that the way he approaches the question is a bit different from the way we modern people usually approach the question. That he lived in a world where there was this idea that the cosmos was some kind of rational in a way, or there was this logos, or some kind of this. There was purpose for all existence. So he mentions in the book that that the purpose of the horse is to ride fast and carry the rider, and then the purpose of the eye is to see clearly and so forth. So because of that, human beings also have some purpose.
The purpose of the knife is to cut.
Yeah, the purpose. Yeah. The purpose of the knife is to be sharp, so it can cut the fruits. And because everything has a purpose, human beings also have a purpose. So then the figuring out the human purpose is just trying to figure out what is special about human beings compared to the other animals and compared to other creatures. And when you figure that out, then you can figure out that okay, that's special about human beings. So then being excellent in that thing is what is the purpose of human life. So that's kind of how he reasons about the thing. And then because then the rational mind is something that separates human beings from other animals, then exercising your rationality is something that it's kind of his answer to the question. But then when we come closer to the modern times, I think that the question that is raised more, I don't know, in 18th century or 19th century onwards is the question that what if life doesn't have any meaning? So that's kind of the modern way of asking the question that Aristotle, at least when I read the book, I don't see that he would be discussing. He would in any place he would be doubting that what if humans don't have any purpose.
So he didn't consider that to be a possibility.
Yeah. So he was because he was living in a world where everything existed for a purpose. So it was self-evident that human beings existed for a purpose as well. So he didn't even consider the question that what if there is no purpose to human life. And I think that in a way it was the scientific worldview was one of the key factors in making it possible to think that human life might not have any purpose, because the scientific worldview that then was giving us the view of the world where there was this kind of the immense time before us and time after us, that human existence is very brief compared to the cosmological scale, that the stars have existed millions of years before us, they will exist millions of years from us. Then the evolutionary theory was telling that human beings just evolved from these other animals and so forth. So there's nothing special about human beings as such and so forth. So there was that was kind of the worldview from which we started to doubt that hey, maybe human beings don't have any purpose.
So we're kind of downplaying our purpose, pretty much, if we come in a rough way. We're oh, we're not so special. We're like these monkeys, but we have clothes.
Yeah. That's the thing. apes in a tuxedo was like this term that this Roy Baumeister, who's like one of the psychologists of meaning, like he used that term in like his recent article, that we're kind of like these apes in tuxedos, that we are same as other animals.
We want to think that we're very sophisticated.
But we put on these clothes and and try to be like very sophisticated, but in the bottom line we are the same as these other gorillas or chimpanzees or whatever.
But they're very complex as well. Did you study other animals as well, or is that possible, or elaborate on that?
I haven't like studied myself, but I read like some I read like quite much studies about like especially like chimpanzees, because one of the topics that I've been researching has been this that kind of the pro-social tendencies of human beings. That is it something that if I help you, is it always for like selfish reasons? Am I always looking for something for myself from that, or do I have like some kind of like more altruistic tendencies in myself that I just want to help you because I'm a kind of guy who wants to help other people. And when you try to study that kind of topic, then it's of course interesting to see like what do we know about other animals, like our close relatives, like chimpanzees. Like, do they have this tendency to help other chimpanzees or not? That might be like that. If they have that, then it's like easier to argue that it might be part of our like genetic makeup that we have this tendency to help other people. And there's like some interesting research that shows that some of these animals seem to have like these tendencies to help other people, help other they're like mates in various situations. That chimpanzees they are like guarding their like territory, and like they have these sort of guards who are like going around the territory and defending each other in fights and so forth. And in various like laboratory experiments, that if you give like, if there's a treat that one of the animals can get or one of the chimpanzees can get, and then if you can help the other chimpanzee to get the treat, you will on average do that more, because like you want to help the other chimpanzee. So there's like some that they don't have like as developed sense of wanting to help others than as we human beings, but still they seem to have like some rudimentary sense of trying to help.
Do they? This is an interesting question. I don't know if you know that. Do they have like, when as a human being, when we help someone, right? There are a lot of people we know who like to help each other or other people, but do the animals feel like, let's say someone is slacking, not getting the bananas, just chilling, is not doing the hard works or whatever the thing is, whatever the driving force in that community is. So the guy who helps this poor guy who is kind of lazy, let's say, so does the gorilla who's helping all the time, does he feel like, oh, I'm being used here? Because like us human beings, even the nicest person who like to help other people, but when he sees that, okay, this is like nothing is happening here, he's just being helpless.
But I don't know about gorillas. But I think like as regards human beings, that they argue that there's like that if you think about what are like the basic tendencies from which are like moral sensitivities grow from, one of them is this like this sense of care. That we just care about each other. That that if I see somebody suffer, like the first reaction I have, like even if it will be like some stranger, it's like, should I help that person? Like, So like especially if it's a kid or like a small child, that if you see a small child suffering, you no matter if it's your own child or not, you have this tendency to like to want to help the other person. So like that's one of like the foundations of our morality, this sense of like wanting to care for other people. But another foundation is that's more this like sense of justice and fairness. That it seems to be something that is also like quite much inbuilt to us. That that we are like evaluating people's contributions in various situations and seeing like if that person is helping that person, is that person helping back? And so there's been like many experiments where it has been shown that that even if I don't have like any personal stakes in a situation, if I see that you help or that your friend helps you and then you don't help him back, then I'm like willing to like punish you for like that you were the one who was like letting down
not loyal.
You were the one who was like letting down your friend. So like even though like it's been these laboratory experiments where like people are in a way like anonymous, that so I have the opportunity to punish you, and I I lose some resources myself, but like nobody will never ever know that who the other person was, and nobody will know that have I punished you or so forth. So I don't,
double-blinded.
Yeah, so double-blinded experiment. So like there's nothing for me to gain from punishing you in these experiments, but still. Most people are still like wanting to do that because they just feel like angry at the person. So like this
betrayal.
So that this sense of becoming angry when we see that somebody is like behaving like unfairly. That seems to be something which is like very basic part of ourselves. That's something that we cannot like help feeling. So like that's this sense of caring and sense of like justice seem to be like two separate foundations of human morality, which is like somehow like built into our nature.
Hey, speaking about experiments, I want to ask you, what was the most eye-opening experiment that you have been part of, or something like you completely didn't like? You had hypothesis, and it went, like almost 180 degree in the other direction. Do you recall any kind of?
Yeah, there was this. So I believe like as regards this like this, that when we are doing like good things to other people, it seems to like increase our own well-being. So we do like some experience on that topic, so that in one study we put like people to play this like simple computer game where there was like it was like this game of like synonyms. So like there's like one word on the top, and then there were like 4 alternatives, and then you have like choose which one is synonymous to the word on the top. So very simple game, and people played that for like 10 minutes, and afterwards they answered a survey about how they felt, and there was like 2 conditions. So one group people were just playing the game as such, and then the other group the people were told that for every correct answer we like donate like very like small sum of money to the United Nations food program to help end hunger in the world. So the same game, but like this small positive contribution towards other people. And then the result was like, okay, that was not like, that was like expected result, but the result was like, that the people in the group who were able to like make this small contribution, they felt that the experiment, that the playing the game was a lot more meaningful, and they also felt like more positive feelings afterwards. So that was like one experiment we did, but like, one of the more recent experiments, we want to like test also the other side of the coin, that, what if I feel that, I've been doing something like bad to other people, just to increase my like sense, like ill-being in a way. So in that experiment, we put people like, it was like very, very, like I don't know if you can even call it a game, because like it was just like there was like one letter on the screen, and then you had to push the same button on the keyboard. Yeah. And people had to like play that kind of game for 4 minutes. And for every time they push the keystroke, like the right keystroke, they in one condition they were like, they gain, or in every condition they gain like 1 cent for themselves for every keystroke, and they played it for 4 minutes, and there was a new letter every 4th second. So they ended up like gaining like 60 cents for themselves,
which is not quite of money.
It's not a big money, but then 4 minutes of effort. So it's still something.
Did you guys pay that 60 cents? Here you go.
No, we played. They got the money, but it was like it was online system. We didn't pay them with cash.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, again, like there was like this one group of people, like in addition, like just gaining money for themselves, they also were like they were told that that for every 4th time you push the button, there's like 1 cent donated to Red Cross. So like they gained like 60 cents for themselves, and then they were like gained like 15 cents for Red Cross. And then there was like one group of people who were saying that that we are going to donate money to Red Cross, but for every keystroke you push, we are going to donate 1 cent less. So like that you play the game, you earn money for yourself, but at the same time
it's being taken from a good cause.
Yeah, so you're gaining money for yourself, but at the same time, money is like the money that would otherwise have been donated to Red Cross is taken away from them.
Okay, so what happened?
So the result was like the group who was like kind of like getting money to the Red Cross, like
giving money
to Red Cross, for them like the well-being like increased compared to that group who only like earned money for themselves. But the other group who was like now getting money away from Red Cross, there was like no decrease in their well-being. So there was like those people who just gained money for themselves, and those people who were like, taking money away from Red Cross, they had the same levels of well-being afterwards. So that experiment didn't seem to be working in that sense.
So basically, I don't know, what came to my mind is that if you do something and you give everything out, you give everything about yourself out to a cause, to a good cause, to a just cause, to a meaningful, purposeful cause, it gives you more happiness in the long run compared to if you don't do, or if you do partially. So, it could be, you can take this scenario but change the variables. I don't know if that's allowed in your field, but I'm just messing up.
Yeah.
But if you would do that in helping, like let's say someone who helps everyone, to someone without gaining anything, and someone who helps but gets money from that help, do you think that would, like somehow be comparable?
Yeah. So what, as we have this experiment, what we were thinking, what could be like the reason why people didn't suffer from, like, because I still believe that that if I feel that I'm like making other people worse off, that would like decrease my well-being, that I would also feel like bad about myself in those situations. But I think that people are also like quite good at like explaining to themselves why I'm not responsible for this thing. That in this kind of experiment, people might be thinking about that I'm anyways making a contribution towards the science, like just by participating in the experiment.
Yeah,
I'm
you
making
can't take that off from that scenario.
Yeah. So
it's always going to be.
So I'm contributing to science, and so one thing that the people might be like emphasizing that when they realize that I'm making Red Cross worse off, then they're gonna think for themselves that they're gonna rationalize it for themselves that okay, I'm still like contributing towards science. So they're gonna like emphasize in their own mind more the contribution towards science that they're making. We actually found some support for that
thinking.
Yeah, so that the people who were in that condition, they rated their contribution to the science as higher compared to the people who didn't like take money away from the Red Cross.
Yeah.
So that's one reason. And another reason that we didn't test at that study, but which I started to think like later, that that also the level of responsibility that you might have of the situation might be like different. That I might think that okay, I'm taking the money, or like playing this game, the money is taken away from Red Cross, but I was put into this situation by the researchers. It's on them. It's not on me.
Yeah.
That's how that they don't feel like personally responsible for the situation, because it's kind of like a forced situation that they ended up in.
Almost like going to a war. Like, I don't want to kill you, but it's this other group of people who's making me to kill you.
Yeah. So then it says that might be like another reason that people might be like able to rationalize that sense. So I think that people are quite good, like when I like if I make other people suffer like inadvertently, that I didn't mean to make them suffer, but like if I realize that I did something wrong, quite often I'm able like somehow rationalize it to myself, and I'm able to tell myself a story where I was not the bad guy. It was because of those people there, or it was like because of this or that, this and that condition in this environment.
I'm just the victim of circumstances.
Yeah, kind of like so we're like good at like explaining it to ourselves why we are not the bad guys.
And we do that with various things.
Yeah, we do that. That's in this experiment. It was a very small thing, but I think people are able to like explain quite big things away from their personal responsibility as well.
How does the social media affect into happiness? Social media is, I would say, getting bigger and bigger, being part of our lives. It's almost like you're out of society if you don't take part in social media. And social media itself is a very broad term, because newspapers were kind of a social media, because that connected the people and information was distributed. Now it's just in a different level. So any thoughts on that, or any? Yeah.
There's been like debate on the topic. Of course, like it's partly like depends like how you use the social media and so forth. But I guess like because one of the key sources of human like happiness is the like connection to other people. So in that sense, like and because the kind of creatures we are, like the kind of the being able to be in the same physical space with other people, I think that's like quite big part of that. I guess like many people have like experienced this thing like during the spring when people have been like socially distancing, that it's nice and you can get like things done still, but that's still like something missing. Like many people in the workplaces have, for example, that felt that even though like they're able to get the things done, but still like big part of the what makes the work like enjoyable and meaningful has been like missing from it, when you are not able to share these moments with your co-workers, because like you're working at your own home and they're working at their own home, and then you connect through email or through whatever means, but it's not still the same thing as like connecting like physically. So like if the social media is like replacing like this like face-to-face meetings,
interactions,
face-to-face interactions, and then I think that it might have like detrimental effect on your well-being, because like face-to-face interactions are usually like good thing for your well-being, that meeting up with your friends and people close to you, if you are able to like be together with them, that's usually like one of the key sources of happiness. And so that's kind of the risk that that if we are staying at our own bedroom,
isolating,
staying in our own bedroom and like just connecting with other people through this like social media, that might not be like as good for our well-being as meeting them actually face to face.
Have you read these studies? I was reading a book, I forgot, but it was about social media marketing and or how to create like this loop or hook kind of a product or service. So they're talking mainly about how to promote different things in social media, because I do this kind of a podcast and I have to get it out there. But anyway, in that book they were saying that, I don't remember the research, but it's quite famous, if I understood, that the more screen time people have, the more depressed they get, the more time people spend online.
Yeah, I think that there's this one like research, this Chan Twenge is one of the researchers who has been like exploring the topic, and she's been finding that at least she's been like using the US data. She's like US researcher, so in the US data it has been like at least like teenagers like depression has been like increasing quite much in the last 10 years, and she's trying to like show that that the increase in depression is quite much like happening simultaneously with the increase of like the usage of the social media and like this like these devices. So she's trying to argue for that, and I'm not sure that some other people have been like criticizing that that it might be just like an accidental connection, that there might be other things driving that. But yeah, I feel that at least that the social media itself, I don't know if that's so bad, but like one thing is that if it's replacing like face-to-face connection, then it probably hurts our well-being. And also like if you use it like to that it easily, of course, like it might happen that you are comparing yourself to the other people,
people's happiness.
Yeah, because like comparison is big part of our happiness. I'm looking at how people around me are doing, and then I think, oh yes, I'm doing better than themselves, or I'm doing worse than them. And of course, if you like compare to people face to face, you get like more realistic view of themselves. But if you like compare to people on Instagram,
through filters,
through filters, then of course like everybody only shows their best side of their days and the best side of their life in the social media. So like if you don't realize that, then you like the comparison that you make is that my life is like very gray, or like don't have any colors, but everybody else's life is like so full of like exciting things.
And also, whenever we see someone who is in a worse situation than we are economically, or whatever the statues or meters you want to compare, you don't remember them, but you remember the guy who's like driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or having a yacht, or like living a lavish billionaire lifestyle. We always remember those. We don't remember the guy who's like living off worse than we are.
Yeah, and I feel like this media is one of the like things that makes this comparison. But I think some people are saying that this Bhutan, which is like one of the countries like in this
Bhutan,
Bhutan in this like Himalaya area,
close to Bangladesh, or
and they didn't like allow TVs for a long time, and then when TV was introduced, and then TVs were full of like these American shows about the
Pop culture.
yeah, pop culture, like, and then people's like happiness went down because of that, because like before that they were like comparing themselves to like people around them, that okay, life is like this, whatever it is, but it's like like quite
These are my possibilities.
yeah, these are my possibilities around what I see. Then they look at the TV and they see like these American millionaires living their like Hollywood lifestyle. Then and oh my God, my life is so boring and my life is so like poor.
The same thing happens when I go visit Bangladesh with my cousins, and obviously Bangladesh it has developed. You have malls and you have all these amusing parks and all the entertainment is out there. But still, sometimes I might find some of my cousins were like saying, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're living the dream. You're living." And I do understand we do have a lot of things better here, but it's not like like I tried to explain them, like, look, maybe compared to you, I'm rich, but when I'm in Finland, I live in the poorest neighborhood, like in the slums of Finland. Obviously, Finland doesn't have slums.
Yeah. The slums of Finland is still like quite a good place to live compared to many other places. Yeah.
So
yeah, but of course, like you compare yourself to people you like encounter every day. So like we don't think about the people far away when we think about our own lives, but we think about the people we encounter around us ourselves.
Social media has an effect on us, and we have evolved as a species to a newer, better, less is more. Maybe and you could say less is more also when it comes to us. If you think about Aristotle and all these great philosophers, they really I really admire their thinking, and they had less empirical evidence of the world, and yet they came into a conclusion that human being has a purpose. And the more empirical knowledge we have about our surroundings and the planet where we live and our origins and whatnot, the more confused we are. Like, what are we, and do we even have any purpose?
Yeah, I agree with that.
and I think also social media plays some kind of role in there. I don't know what role in a grand scale of things. Obviously, I haven't done the researches, but yeah, your take on that. How would you, let's put it this way. How would you want your kids, what kind of relationship you would want your kids to have with social media? Because we always view our kids that we want the best for them. Even if their life is not perfect for me, I don't want my child to go through the struggles that I had.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my oldest kid is like 8-year-old, so he doesn't yet use like much social media. So I haven't like myself like encountered these kinds of too much, but like
exposure.
But like, I know that in the coming years I will have to like take a stand on like what kind of social media I should like be suggesting to them, and how much and what stand should I take on these issues. But of course, like I guess like I was a bit like lucky in that sense that when social media arrived, I was already like in my like I was like in my 20s, like late 20s or something like that. So I think like my kind of like my identity and stuff like that was already like quite developed. So it was like easier to like encounter social media at that point when you already knew who you were in a sense. So I think like that it's more that social media and like this Instagram culture and like that's just putting like the best side of your life forward in the pictures, that might be like more harmful when you're like teenager and still like like not so much not so sure about yourself and what like and kind of trying to figure out your identity and so forth.
If I can say something, I was with my close friend. You met him here. He's also in the studio. Yesterday I was talking to my friend and I was like, hey, what do we do in the social media? We create memories of good times so we can tell a story about ourselves, that we are these people who are living these good moments.
Yeah.
And our life becomes just to beautify the picture
Yeah.
for the future.
Yeah.
Investing for the future.
Yeah.
And it's very miserable. Like then I kind of became a bit depressed. I was like, this is very miserable way of living.
Yeah, and there's like some research showing that that those people who like are like most concerned about their own happiness, who are like most thinking about how can I maximize my own happiness, like most like focused on that, they are actually like less happy than other people. And one reason is like because those people, they are kind of like they are not able to enjoy the moment anymore, like because whatever happened, they're like thinking, okay, this made me quite happy, why didn't it make me even more happy? So like that they lose the ability to just be in the moment and like enjoy the moment, because they're always thinking that how could I optimize this moment to make it even more happy? And I think the same thing happens with the social media, that that you lose the ability if you like encounter,
you lose the appetite for happiness,
or you lose like the ability to like enjoy the moment as such. You're thinking that it's a great like it's a great evening, I'm like enjoying the sunset or something like that. Then you're like, what would be the best picture to take from this situation to put on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And then you can like lose the moment as such. You're not anymore like enjoying the moment, because you're just
chasing the moment.
Yeah, you're kind of like trying to
chase.
Yeah, try to chase the moment, or trying to like make the moment into a good picture. And you're not present in the moment anymore, but you're kind of like using the moment for some purpose, which is like outside the moment itself. So kind of like the ability to just be there and enjoy the moment.
Be present.
Yeah, be present in the moment. We can like, if we think about too much, how can we turn this moment into something that we can like present on the social media? Then we lose the ability to just be there.
There, in the Muslim community, I don't know about in other communities, but I seen or I heard of a wedding where like the bride and the groom, they come from the helicopter to a venue, and they spend like, both of them worked for a year and like put crazy amount. I heard something like 30,000 euros being spent just on the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, just to have the perfect wedding, what I'm saying? And that marriage didn't even last long. It's crazy. Like, what do you make of this? That when people, I think the chasing thing happens here as well. Chasing that climax, chasing for the
because it's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, so everything has to be perfect. And I think I heard like stories about people like how much money they spend, but also like how stressed they are about every single detail of their wedding. That all the small details have to be like right, and then they like spend half a year of their or 1 year of their life just like stressing out about every small detail about the wedding.
It's crazy.
So then can you really enjoy the moment anymore, enjoy the wedding after like when you have like so micromanage every single detail of it?
So could it be said that the more relaxed way you approach to life and just be present, the better you feel about the moment and actually enjoy it?
I guess like it's kind of like about the balance. I think that that this Daniel Kahneman, who's like this one like psychologist, he's been like, he has this book that is Thinking Fast and Slow, where he's like kind of like arguing that there's like we have like these two different minds within human beings. That one part of our mind is more this living in the present kind of mind that we share with the other animals. That that we are just like living in the present moment and
living with your senses.
Living with your senses, like intuitive knowledge and so forth. And then the other part is like this more reflective and conscious mind, which is able to think about the past. It's able to think about the future and like make these long-term plans. And I think like just that if you're just like enjoying the present, that's not a good lifestyle, because like then most probably you will have like some troubles in the future, because like you're thinking, I should pay my rent. I don't care about that or anything like that. But then at one point you are kicked out of your apartment, and so like just living in the present might have like quite harmful long-term consequences. Like quite.
But
often.
Then having too much discipline can.
But having too much discipline and only focusing on the future, always like sacrificing your present moment for the future project that you have. That's also like not so good. So like it's about kind of like finding the right balance between these two ways of living. That one way of living is just living in the present, enjoying the sunset or enjoying the moment, and then the other is like, you know, just more planning your life, thinking about future, thinking about having some goals that you like pursue and so forth. And I think like, you know, if both of them are like kind of like not so good, but it's about to find the balance. But I think like in the modern world, quite many people are too much focused on of course there's people also who are like too much focused on the present moment, but I think like quite many people
generally we're very
project-oriented people.
The modern society kind of requires you to be a project-oriented person if you want to work in this society.
It requires like certain degree of discipline, and nowadays like even this work life is like becoming more part of your like whole lifestyle. You know that before it was more that, you know, you go to work for 8 hours and then you come out of work and then like the rest of the day you can do whatever you want. But nowadays it's like kind of like if you're in a certain career, then you like expected to be like in the social media, like behave in a certain way in the social media. I think there hasn't been like so many cases in Finland, but in the US like several cases that, you know, people, you know, posting their personal Facebook profile something, and because of that they get kicked out of their work. You know, that hey, you shouldn't do that kind of thing. So like kind of like your whole lifestyle is kind of like that the work in.
We are connected in a different way. That's just what it is. We get to see your apartment. If I follow you on Facebook, I get to see people that you encounter with, the moments you have, and you know, talking about work. I was thinking that in the future, are we going to have any work? And you said like work is one of the things, contribution is one of the key factors for happiness and meaningful life. What happens when the robots takes my or your job? what's going to happen then?
So of course like there's like different opinions about like that will the robots take over all the jobs. So the kind of work that they're taking over is this routine kind of work. That the work that if the industrial revolution, it was taking over the physical work, you know, that the heavy physical work was no longer like, we needed like much less horses in the Finnish society after the like tractors and other machines were introduced, because they were able to take care of the heavy lifting that the horses were taking care of before that. And what's happening now that, you know, that this routine kind of brain work is more and more automatized. So like we have like algorithms and programs which are doing like that kind of work, but the kind of work which is like still left for human beings is more like work which requires like more like creative and like reflective thinking. That, you know, it's that if the like the problem is like completely like, you know, if you know exactly what the problem is, if you know exactly what the solution is, then like somebody else can or then some machine can already like produce the solution, automate it. But like quite often the human problem is like, it's about, you know, that what is the problem anyways that we are like trying to solve here, that trying to figure out what are the relevant parameters in this problem, what are we actually trying to achieve here. This kind of like more creative and more reflective and like critical thinking, this is still something that the human beings are much better at doing than the machines. Something
that doesn't have so many patterns.
So you have like kind of figure out yourself what is the pattern or what are the relevant parameters. So it's not just about like rough, like just calculating.
A good example is arts or music and these kind of things. You can't replace a human singing human, or maybe you can. I don't know. Depends how far or near you want to think about it.
Yeah, of course, like we don't know like what's going to happen 50 years from now.
So let's play a game. If, for example, machines are going to take over the works. What do you think the human purpose how would that affect human purpose if we didn't have work?
Of course, in a way like that's like some kind of like paradise in a way that, you know, that we are like released from the kind of like that we don't any
dependency.
There's like no, we don't have to like work anymore for the money, because the machines are making sure that we have enough food and so forth. So in the best case it will be like paradise where we are like released and we are able to use our days or our time for whatever like project we might like come up with. Like, you know, if you have some artistic project, then we can just do that, or if you want to play football all day, then we can like just play football or whatever it's like we enjoy doing. But I guess like, of course, like in a way, people usually like need some kind of projects in their life. So it might like be hard to like adapt to that kind of society, because nowadays it's kind of like the projects are somehow like given to us, that you get the work, and then like somebody's telling you that what you should be doing, and then you're like you already have like 8 hours per day something meaningful to do, because somebody's telling you what to do. So like if everybody would be like free to do whatever they want every day, it would be like quite a hard situation, and people might not like know what actually what to do. Yeah, what to chase. That some people will be like very happy because they have already something that they chase, that they, I don't know, they might be
dream projects.
Yeah, they have like some dream projects that they can spend their time on. But many people might not have these dream projects, and then they might just become bored by too much leisure time and don't really know what they want to do.
As a philosopher, this is like my final and the hardest question. What do you think happens when human beings dies? Your personal opinion, I just want to know.
When human beings die, I don't know, if you think about it from like the point of view of like the scientific world, where science is, then it's just like, life is just kind of like
we don't have empirical data.
Of course, yeah.
Afterlife.
Yeah, but like then probably life might just end, and then other people might remember you, and your contributions might be carrying on, that that whatever you did during your life, they might be like still like having an impact. So you made your mark, or you made your like impact on the world, but
your name lives on other people's lips and hearts, or whatever.
Yeah, and even when they have like forget about your name and everything, is still like you might have like influenced some people, and they might have influenced some other people. So that kind of like the
butterfly effect.
The butterfly effect. The network of influences might carry on for like very
generations.
Long time. Yeah.
But what do you think that happens yourself? Yeah. It's not a scientific thing. It's just an opinion. If you want to share, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Personally, I don't probably believe in any kind of like afterlife. I just think that then our
show is end.
The show is over at that point. I don't know.
It's a very tough question, and it's not like there is anything you can. I think because of.
Yeah, of course. Like
you can't prove it.
You can prove it like in one way or another. So it's of course like everybody is gonna see it when the time comes. But at least I haven't been like doing any plans based on that. I've been like I've been kind of like trying to plan my life based on that. The things that I want to do during this lifetime.
Focusing on the present.
Yeah. That's more has been more my focus, that try to do things during this lifetime rather than think about what happens afterwards.
Why do you think people it still like boggles many people like myself? I do think about, like, I don't think about it as much as I used to when I was kid. It was more present, that thought in the life hereafter. Or why do you think that some people find meaning or purpose in thoughts of that there is an afterlife?
Of course, like it's one of the key facts of human life is that we all die. So of course, like that's something that we always probably been like quite interested in, like what happens then. But I think in some ways, like I think like some of like the philosophical traditions seem to be using like the death as a way of like enhancing the present life, in a way that thinking about death might remind you that that your life on earth is like limited, and because of that you shouldn't like postpone your, like if you have like some dreams, or if you have like some goals that you want to do in life, that reminding oneself about that, hey, I'm gonna die at one point, might help you to realize that, hey, I should like pursue those goals right now. I cannot like just wait until some further time, because like at some point the time is gonna end. So that there's like, for example, the Stoic tradition in the philosophy, like the ancient Stoic tradition, they use like this meditation on death, like as a way of like trying to
motivator.
So that was like one of the ways, because also that we easily get like, that we are like we can like too much focus on like that we are like avoiding things in life or like doing that, but then
push ourselves out of the comfort zone.
Yeah. So what they're trying to achieve in was like this like attitude where you like accept everything in life as it is. That's one of like the key things that they're trying to figure out. Yeah, achieve that, that way of living where you think that, whatever happens, you're like, okay, this happened. And then one way like get towards that attitude where like, you can take whatever external things happens, you can be like still like, calm and, accept it as it comes is true.
Not let it affect you too much.
Not let it like affect you too much. So like thinking about like accepting one's own death. If you can accept that, then you can probably accept anything else afterwards. So that was one of like the things that they're trying to like consciously think about. That think about every day about your own death in order to like find this attitude towards life where you're.
And that is very brave way of thinking, wouldn't you say? To be consciously thinking about one's perishment of reality, but to accept it like look at death in the eye.
And I think like that's one of like the key parts of like the philosophical tradition has been like this kind of like this ideal of being able to like that
content.
So that it's not only about like being able to live a philosophical life, but it's also like able to face death in a philosophical way, which is about just accepting it. Like Socrates is one of like the kind of like the founders of the the philosophical tradition, and he was like sentenced to death in Athens, and then he had the chance to escape, but he was thought that no, that's not like my values. So then he took like the cup with this poison and just drank it, and that was like considered kind of like the philosophical ideal of life, that that you have your principles, you follow the principles, and if the principles lead you to that kind of situation, then you like just happily accept the situation, and that's it.
There are some good principles, but I think in some cases, if you are not willing to change your opinions, about the new things, and you're like, no, I'm not going to change, I'm like this, and I'm going to sit like this. I'm not saying that Socrates did that. Socrates, obviously, he was trying to prove a bigger point. The foolishness of his peers at that time, and showing them that no, you're not going to win this game. This is how the game is won. I think that was his point. But I'm just thinking overall,
Yeah, of course, like one should have principles, but one should be also a bit flexible with them, because like
not let it affect too much on your identity.
Or like that even though you have like one principle, you should have like others. I think like people who have only one principle, that's always like a bad thing, because that there's not only one thing that makes life good, or there's not only one thing that
fulfills
or like makes life good or bad, or like so it's good to have like it's good to have several principles, and sometimes realize that, hey, I have to sacrifice this principle in order to realize these 3 other principles, which are actually more important. So like if you live your life only based on one principle, then you probably are going to make, following that principle, you're going to make like some stupid things, which are actually sacrificing some other principles that
might give you more value in the long run. You might look back on your life that, I wish I would do certain things differently.
So like, that not having any principles is not a good thing, but that having the principles, one should like also think about somehow that having like several of them, and that realizing that sometimes they might go against each other.
But I think we have discussed quite a lot of interesting topics, and I personally feel that I have enriched, have found some. Not like direct, philosophy is very, very, how could I say this? it enriches you. Even if you don't find the answer, but you find the next question, next set of questions.
Yeah, I think like philosophy is indeed it's more about the questions than the answers. That the answers usually like are not final. There's always like at some point you realize that okay, that was a good answer, but actually it was not the whole story. But it's more about realizing that there's like that what are the questions. So that's like the
and painting the picture with the questions. Aligning or outlining the happiness, for example, like you did, like you talked about different shade or angles of happiness and different ways people find in different things. Like death, some people find death, not happiness but content of life, facing, like reminding themselves of death.
And I guess like also quite often we take certain things in life like as self-evident. There might be like values or like some like principles that are guiding my life, but I never even thought about them. They're just guiding my life. Like I'm kind of like automatically following them. And philosophy is kind of like trying to make these values and principles that we have like more conscious. That we could like reflectively think about them and then like make a conscious choice that do I want to follow this value or principle or not. Because like quite that it's in a way it's like trying to make people more reflective about their own lives and their own values, their own principles, and through that so that they can like make a choice about what kind of life they want to live, instead of like just following certain principles on like automatic base without never questioning them.
Yeah, without never like actually turning the lights on.
Without even realizing that they're doing that. That's kind of like one of the principal functions of philosophy is trying to raise these questions in people's minds. Then like whatever the answers are, that's another question, but like just even making people aware that there are certain choices about how to live one's life, and one should like make a choice about how one lives one's life. That's what philosophy tries to achieve.
So that's a philosophy for you guys in a nutshell. Thank you very much for coming here.
Yeah. Thanks for a great conversation.
Yeah, and if you have any other books or anything that's going on and you want to talk about those projects, just hit me on the Facebook.
Yeah.
And we'll make it happen. And also, if you want to share some of your social medias or where people can find more your works and books and where you publish, so now it's a good time to spread the message, spread the love.
Yeah, I guess like the thing, my newest book is that this wonderful life, insights on finding a meaningful existence, which is about these topics about meaning. That's I guess like one of the key things. But of course, I write like shorter stories for different. I have like my homepage frankmartela.fi, where
you'll find it in the link below.
And then of course I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and whatever, and write some blog posts also for like Psychology Today, so that there's some thoughts always happening there. Yeah.
All right, cool. And also the event where we went with Frank, and Frank was a guest to that event. I made a small vlog about it, and you can find that also in the link below, and I'll share it with you as well. But if you don't have anything else to say for now, then that was it. Thank you for coming, and it was an honor to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.